The Duval Rundown, driven by Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, home of the lifetime warranty.
Oh yeah, welcome to Duval Rundown, Wednesday of week 1. It is here. Pleased to be joined as always on Wednesday by my good friend Ryan O'Halloran, the sports columnist at the Florida Times-Union. Ryan, are you ready for some football?
I am, especially after this first weekend of college football, which sucked. It was boring. Yeah, I mean, I
kind of will say, like, you know, it is a different product. I mean, it's two totally different things, but I'm kind of with you. Like, not that watching Treon Manning bounce passes to Texas receivers wasn't exhilarating, but yeah, I am excited for the real deal to be here starting tomorrow night.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, this is what we're here for. It is a long off season. It's a long training camp, especially when you move. But yeah, I mean, tomorrow night's the lid lifter. Friday night Chiefs and Chargers, and then this tilt in Jacksonville on Sunday.
Yeah, without a doubt, and lots to get to. Want to talk? I know you got a chance to catch up with Eric Armstead, who's certainly a key piece to this defense. So want to get to that, but let's start with Liam Cohen and the offense, because in looking at last year's history, boy, you've got to be encouraged if you're a Jaguars fan for what Liam Cohen was able to do as offensive coordinator last year with Tampa Bay, obviously seeing Carolina twice in that division. I was astonished by the numbers. I mean, in the first meeting, they didn't play until week 13. So obviously Liam Cohen by that point had a time to really get in a groove. But the first meeting, Tampa Bay wins 26-23. They run the ball for 236 yards and really were able to overcome a poor performance by Baker Mayfield. He threw 1 touchdown, 2 picks, passer rating of 69.6. They were 2 of 12 on third down. And then you get to that second meeting in week 17, and it's just a Tampa Bay thrashing, 48-14. They gained 551 yards of total offense. They're 10 of 14 on third down, so a totally drastic outcome when Liam Cohen saw them the second time. And Baker Mayfield had one of the best days of his career, 27-32, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's got to give you a lot of confidence. I know things have changed. Liam's now here as a head coach. It's a different group of offensive talent, but Carolina doesn't seem radically different on defense. So what's your confidence level that the Jaguars, even though it's week 1, can move the ball and have some success against this Carolina defense?
Not great. I mean, because it is the first game for everybody with this offense, and so I don't think it's going to be a run over by any means. The 10-10 Twitter here, why the Jacksonville Jaguars could dominate the Panthers. I don't think they're gonna. That's my take on that. I do think that this Jaguar offense is going to get better as the first couple of weeks go along when they get used to each other. But one thing I'd say for Liam Cohen is I expect, they're going to use the screen game a lot because he called so many good screens last year, get Trevor Lawrence into rhythm that way. And then what's interesting to me is, okay, how are they going to run it? Is it ETN? Is it Bigsby? Is it one of the rookies? But I do think there's a feeling out process when you are a new program here in Jacksonville. And even if you probably have better personnel than the opponent on Sunday, so I think it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, and in terms of that, it's you bring up a good point, because even Liam has conceded that, look, last year in Tampa Bay, we wanted to do one thing with the ground game, realized we couldn't really do it. It wasn't what we were best at, shifted it. And then that's when, the offense really took off. And again, those Panthers meetings, the first one wasn't until week 13. So you're talking obviously very deep into the season. A coach has had time to figure out what his players can and can't do.
Just real quick on that, Hayes, Liam Cohen said this last week, is the run game for Tampa was not very good in the first couple weeks of the season. Because you really can't practice it anymore. You just don't have that kind of physicality. Right. So to me, that's where his play calling is going to be interesting on Sunday. Is does he trust what they did well in training camp practices, certain pass plays, certain screen plays, or is he really trying to impose the Jaguars will with the run game, with an offensive line that feels like we know which 5 are going to be. He likes the sort of the chemistry they built. So that's going to be one of the subplots and in a non-Travis Hunter category.
How do you think he'll call the game for Trevor? I mean, this is a big, confidence game. I mean, if it doesn't go well Sunday for Trevor Lawrence, I mean, it's just a fact. It's at some point you run out of mulligans. I'm not saying he's down to his last one by any stretch, but you know how this league goes. You know how this market is. If he doesn't play well against what's perceived to be the worst defense in the NFL, at least they were last year, and it wasn't close, by the way. They allowed like 31.5 points a game. And the next worst was like 4 points shy of that. So, I mean, Carolina was pathetic last year. So there is some pressure here to get off to a good start. How do you think Liam Cohen will try to get Trevor comfortable and keep him as decisive as we've seen in the majority of training camp?
You're right that the pressure is on because this game is at home. You're at Cincinnati in week 2. I think this is a critical game for the Jaguars. How I would get Trevor Lawrence into a rhythm is I'd run some tempo. Hey, huddle, sort of make sure if you like Carolina's personnel group on the field, keep them on the field. Keep your guys on the field. See if you can get some first downs. Stay out of 3rd and long, 3rd and short. You're going to face those during the course of the game. So I would, if I'm the Jaguars offensive staff over the last 2 days and I finalize this plan, it would be how to get Lawrence into the best rhythm as quickly as possible. Is that short passes? Is that heavy emphasis on Brian Thomas? That's what it should be. But in sort of working all the areas of the field to sort of probe this Carolina defense, because the Panthers are going to have some wrinkles defensively to throw at the Jaguars. So it's up to Lawrence and Robert Hainsey at center to really communicate those protection looks. So I think this is a big game for Trevor Lawrence. This is a game as a 5th-year quarterback against a 3rd-year quarterback. You have to outduel Bryce Young. And so my expectations for Trevor Lawrence are relatively high. My concern would be this Jaguar defense, have they played enough together to have answers for Carolina?
Yeah, and we're going to get to that side of the ball. Before we do, let's touch on Travis Hunter. How do you think he'll be employed offensively against Carolina? Yeah,
and I thought Liam Cohen made a good point on Monday. This is a player who's not practiced a lot over the last couple of weeks. Now he's playing both sides of the ball, and he's a rookie. I think that was Liam Cohen sort of unofficially saying, "Hey, we're gonna have to work this kid back into the mix." Yeah. And I don't think he's going to play 100 snaps, but to say he's a situational player in week 1, that is not an insult. Because he has missed time. He played 11 snaps in the preseason against Pittsburgh. That was a month ago. So I think the expectations for Travis Hunter in week 1 should be very measured. And if he can, make a play, that even the better. But I think you're still onboarding Hunter at this point.
Yeah, and you mentioned Liam Cohen. We're actually about an hour away from talking with Liam. So when we wrap this, we'll be very close to hearing from the head coach. Defensively, you got a chance to catch up with Eric Armstead. What stood out to you about that conversation, and what are your expectations for that defensive tackle room?
Well, he's by calling for tomorrow's paper in the Times-Union, Jacksonville.com, and talked to him alongside Mark Long from the AP last week. And not a fan of last year's staff. And he said a lot.
He's not alone in that club.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, you chose your number at the deli here, and your number 422. So,
right.
So he didn't say it, but you read between the words. But for some reason, that staff last year thought he was better at end. Well, you already have ends.
Right.
Stick him inside. Now, I watched some of his 2023 San Francisco tape. Listen, he's an 11th-year player. His numbers are not going to be eye-popping. Can you get him 4 or 5 sacks? Can you get him 35 to 40 tackles? Can you keep him healthy, which he was last year? He started 1 game out of 17. The previous 7 years, he started every game he played in, including 2 Super Bowls. By all means, let's change his routine. So that was my takeaway from that. But defensive tackle, they thought it was an issue because they traded for Colin Saunders. I think they want to have a 4-man rotation there, and because they feel like they got the guys at end, with those four guys, led by Hines, Allen, and Walker. So I think Armstead at this point is really excited about how he's going to be used, which is the way he wants to be used, which is inside a defensive tackle with a 6'7" guy who can get into the guard's shoulder pads and push them back.
Yeah, that's we'll certainly look forward to reading that tomorrow on Jacksonville.com, your column on Eric Armstead. How do you see the rest of that offensive tackle room? Mason Smith missed time but has been back. They did trade for Colin Saunders. They signed Austin Johnson. Do you think it's going to be an albatross, or do you think they can get functional play? Probably elite play is off the table, but can they get functional play and at least give Josh and Trayvon some support on the ends there?
Yeah, I think functional would probably be the right now expectation. Austin Johnson made some plays for Buffalo last year since I was up there. So, I mean, they decided they just were going to start over with their defensive line depth chart. So I think he's a factor in the middle. But I think a lot rides on, okay, Mason Smith, is he going to have to really work his way back in because he's a younger player who missed so much at camp? You sort of, can you get Armstead, effective? And, DeJuan Smoot, he's an end, but you can maybe slide him inside on third down a little bit. So I'm interested to see how they sort of use some of those versatile guys. And where Armstead really had some success 2 years ago was they looped him. They, sort of had a stunt with the TE stunt, and he can use his athleticism to get up the field. So, I mean, to me, the key is for the Jaguars, are they going to be able to create pressure without blitzing? That's the key for every team with a four-man rush. And you sort of have confidence in Walker and Hines Allen, but can you get an interior push without having to send a linebacker or a safety? I think that's a key. But, I'll throw it back at you. How concerned are you about this defense?
I think the talent is there. I do think the staff last year left a lot to be desired. So even though Campanile is new at this, it feels like there's a chance for at least a step forward from awful to mediocre is possible. Again, it's, they were one of the worst defenses in the league last year. I don't think you can then expect, adding what they've added, which is, I'd say decent, but not like extraordinary in terms of, Jordan Lewis looks like that was a great addition. Travis Hunter, when he's out there playing defense, I'm sure will be good at doing that. But one of the starting safeties on this team is Dewey Wingard. I mean,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, and again, he gets the most out of his athletic ability. He is a great pro in terms of that, and he deserves to be commended for having the career that he's had and the longevity he's had for a guy that was very low odds of making it when he arrived in the NFL, when he arrived with the Jaguars. Having said all that, I think it's a problem that he's a starting safety.
Yeah.
I get it. He knows what to do, and that's great. But this is a league about playmaking, and I just, I have concerns about whether he can be somebody that can prevent the offense from making plays. So, I think there's some concerns. I would have liked to have seen Caleb Bransaw. Obviously, he gets hurt really early on, and I would have liked to have seen Darnell Savage in his second year, make a big move like we've seen, kind of like Tashawn Gibson did. First year with the Jaguars as a free agent wasn't very good. Second year was very good, where the staff felt like he should have been a Pro Bowl player. So, I just think any defense that, and even, Eric Murray, it just seems like they've got at safety two smart guys, but guys that don't really make. I'm not saying Wingard's never made a play. He forced the fumble against the Ravens. I understand that, but I have concerns. And look, I thought Tyson Campbell was, looked great. I thought the first week of training camp, it really looked like Tyson Campbell was ready to take a step, but then he misses some time. So other than Jordan Lewis, who I think's been outstanding, I do worry about the secondary. I mean, I don't know that this will be the matchup that hurts them, but it could. I mean, Carolina's made obviously massive investments in this passing game. Bryce Young's a first-round pick. Xavier Legette, first-round pick. Tedero McMillan, first-round pick. So they certainly have invested in making this passing game strong. And I think the Jaguars secondary could get exposed in a game like this.
Yeah, and I'll touch really quick on the safety. I mean, I'd love to get just remember when Boss Hogg would give them the truth serum on the Dukes of Hazzard, sodium pentothal.
What I really loved is when Wonder Woman would throw the lasso, Linda Carter, the truth lasso. But continue. Your analogy is spot on.
Why not Darnell Savage at safety? So I have to think eventually that they'll move to him. The other thing is that linebacker with Devin Lloyd and Ventrell Miller. Ventrell Miller's medical history is significant. So are they going to play him and just get as much out of him as they can before he breaks down or slows down and then go back to Devin Lloyd? So to me, I think you're going to see both of those guys on Sunday. What's going to be interesting to me is if they play both safeties on Sunday alongside Eric Murray. Well, that means you don't have an answer. And you probably should by now. So that would be an interesting development if they start rotating safeties, which doesn't really happen in this league unless you're really trying to find out who your best guy is. But so if I had to rank the interesting things there is how they're going to use Hunter. How does Tyson Campbell look after missing time? And also at safety. I mean, we were talking on the practice field last week, Hayes. See 42 out there from Bryce Young. McMillan, this receiver, you run right at him.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a complex game. And again, maybe he'll take a big step forward. And again, he is a smart player. I understand why the coaches, have trust in him. But again, it's about plays. And so it'll be interesting to see how Carolina does deploy their first-round receivers in this game, and if Bryce Young's able to connect. Obviously, we're kind of tight today, Ryan, because we got to get over there for Liam. But give us just a thought. How do you gut feeling? Where are you right now on? Do you think this is a win or a loss for the Jags?
Yeah, I'll pick the Jaguars because I just being the home field, whatever. But I do feel like with Liam Cohen is going to have an advantage with his play calling. And so that will be a difference. And Carolina's defense really shouldn't. I just think this Jaguar offense with their skill players should be able to gain yards and score touchdowns. So I'll pick the Jaguars.
Yeah, I like the Jaguars as well, and I do think it'll be somewhat high scoring for a Week 1 game. So I mean, I would like the game, right now somewhere maybe like Jaguars 27. Carolina 23, something like that. I think the Vegas boys and girls are pretty much on it. I think the Jaguars win by 3 or 4. I think they're favored by 3.5. So I do think it'll be a day of celebration on Sunday at the stadium, and that'll be a lot of fun. But we'll see. I do think, some pressure because this is one you need to get. So we'll see if the Jaguars can do it. But yeah, I just think Liam Cohen knows how to take apart this defense, and I think at the end of the day, that'll be enough for the Jaguars to get a win. But that's going to do it for us. Give us so you've got the Armstead column tomorrow on Jacksonville.com. What else should we look forward to?
Busy week. In Friday's paper, it's a 2-column day. 2 columns.
Wow.
So I
didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know you could do that. I caught up with Liam Cohen for a couple minutes after practice, after his press conference on Monday, talked to him, really enjoyed that conversation. And then also a Trevor Lawrence deep dive. For Saturday, I caught up with a couple guys for the notes. And then on Sunday, another 2-column day, an NFL primer for the season, including playoff predictions, a Jaguars season prediction. And then also one of the things I'll do is I'll just clean out the notebook. You'll hear from Tony Baselli. You'll hear from Robert Hainsey. You'll hear from Jordan Lewis, just sort of all the little nuggets that I accumulated over the last 3 weeks.
Great stuff. Well, Ryan, we always enjoy it. We'll look forward to next Wednesday. We're breaking down what happened in the Carolina game and peeking ahead to Cincinnati. That's going to do it for us on Duval Rundown. We will be back on Friday with Rick Ballou to get our final thoughts of the week. Thanks for watching Duval Rundown.